Good afternoon, everybody. It's Dr. Heather Deniston, and this is the Junk You Should Know Show. And with me today is Andrea Nazarenko. And I am very excited because it is Dr. Andrea, and she is going to be sharing lots of things. And I have to just put up something for you guys because this is hysterical. I tried putting her name on the screen and it kept cutting it off because look at those initials. Like that is M.A., M.A., M.A.S., Ph.D. The girl knows
before I had kids, I had a hobby of collecting degrees. So
yeah, which is just awesome. And you definitely you know some stuff, and you know some stuff about what we're going to talk about today, which is EMF, Wi-Fi, impacts on the body. And it's funny. I sent Andrea some questions beforehand, and as she could tell right away, I know nothing about the subject. And so I'm super excited because I've had lots of followers say, talk about this. I'm like, I don't know enough about it to share. And so I'm going to find someone who does. And so Andrea is joining us today, and we're going to be talking about that. So Andrea is going to share to her page while I just tell you guys a couple of announcements. First of all, this week, I did a great webinar on the Fairy God Boss website. So if you go to fairygodboss.com and you go to their events, that 1 hour free webinar is there. It's all about bridging the connection between your wellness and your success. So go check that out. And then also always, for watching the Junk Show, there's always treats. And so look up in the description, look down in the comments, and there will be links there for you to just collect some goodies from me to you to thank you for watching. So we are ready to go. Are you ready, Andrea?
I am ready. I am excited to be here.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us and taking time out of your day. I know you have 3 boys, you're busy, you have a chiropractic doctor, but doctor husband, tell us a little bit about your personal background and what brought you to where you are now, being so concerned with family wellness, growing up in a super healthy family and spreading that information to the families that are involved in your very successful practice that you have with your husband. So share a little bit about that.
Sure. I am by training a psychologist. I am not a sit on my couch and let me learn about your past type psychologist. I'm a research psychologist, although I did start my career interested in serious and violent offending. So I did my dissertation in gang affiliation and worked with people who most people would give up on. But I absolutely loved that work. But then, I really began to realize and dive into this notion that we don't know a lot of what we need to know to make this world a better place. And so that's really when I started. I went for my PhD and I really dove deep into research and quality research and really diving into understanding how we could impact society at large. So instead of helping one individual, can we change our norms and can we change the system within which we live to create a better place for adults and the next generation? And what I found when I was doing this work was that there's a lot we know in research, but there's a lot we aren't doing in practice. And so I really became dedicated and committed to this notion that we have to bridge the gap between research and practice. We have to change our system. We have to change our culture to be more oriented towards health and wellness. And if, you mentioned I have 3 little kids and they are the reason I get up every single day and I do what I do. And, like all moms out there, we all just want the world to be a better place for our kids. And that's just my mission these days, is to just look around and see what's going on in the world around us and just try to make it better. And so my husband is a pediatric chiropractor and functional medicine practitioner. We like to joke that we're sort of the science and art of the next generation of healthcare because he does the art and I do the science. And we co-developed something called the Gut Happy Lifestyle System, where we really believe that getting to the root cause of health or disease. So either way, the 2 sides of the coin, right? But really understanding how our environment around us is what's driving health and wellness, what's driving not only physical health and wellness, but mental health and emotional health. And what we put in our bodies and surround our bodies with is what is driving how we feel on a daily basis. So the solution to health and to illness in this country and across the world is not more prescription bottles and more pills. It's not something external we bring in, but really changing our environment to be healthy. And so this is, what we do now. We have a movement online of parents. They're not virtual parents. They are actual parents that connect virtually to really protect the social, emotional, and mental and physical health of children. And so how does EMF fit into all of this? Well, I became committed to EMFs and learning about them because they are a major toxin. They are a major toxin we don't think about. So probably when I started talking about how our environments surround us, you've probably thought about food, maybe pesticides, maybe some other toxins that we typically think about, pollution. But EMFs are actually one of the big pollutants in our world. And so both my husband and I became certified EMF providers earlier in the year, and we just are dedicated to getting this information out there because there is so much research on it and no one knows it. It's sort of hidden back there somewhere. So we want to broadcast this message, disseminate it, get it out there so people are informed and can make healthy decisions for them and their family.
Yeah, it's I've been thinking about doing this show for a long time, and I've been hesitant because there are some folks out there that are really dramatic about the issue. Now, don't get me wrong, the issue is massively a problem. However, some of these folks are not backing up with, good science, good, traceable back to like original study type science. And that's one of the reasons I was looking forward to bringing you on, is because I know you're a researcher. I know this is kind of, you don't go out there and just say because it's the latest thing. And so we are going to dig into some of the research today a little bit. And so first of all, we've said EMF 25 times already, but there could be people out there who don't know what that means. So can you explain what is EMF? Sure.
EMF stands for electromagnetic frequencies or radiation. And they are the frequency that is emitted. It's most commonly known for Wi-Fi, but it's not just from Wi-Fi. So wireless internet, because we are now a wireless society, it is getting a lot more attention and has a lot more harms because they're a lot stronger and surging. I'll go into that in a minute. But the EMFs themselves are microwave frequencies. So if you think about the radiation that you have when you put food in a microwave, and there's all of this energy that's bouncing around, and it's bouncing around so much that it's heating up food, that is the same thing that is essentially coming off when you turn your Wi-Fi on, or smart meters for that they're putting on houses. There's what turns on your laptop, what moves your cell phone. It's all of this invisible frequencies that are around us that help power electrical type things. It's a microwave radiation, essentially.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't even know that it was microwave. I knew it was wave, but I just didn't understand that it was microwave. And I think you were schooling me just before we came on, and you're like, Heather, like EMF and Wi-Fi Wi-Fi is EMF. And I'm like, oh. And so, but what, I was born in the 70s, and I have two parents that both had brain cancer. One of them died of brain cancer. One of them died of a different cancer later on. And it's interesting because in my community, there are power lines that go over the city, then under the water, all the way to Vancouver Island to energize the whole island. And so this tiny town has the capacity of power lines going over it to fuel a whole island. And so there has been some unusual cases of brain cancer, and that's anecdotal, peeps. This is not studied. This is me asking my friends and talking about the fact that, wow, about every fifth person has had a parent or a sibling or something with some kind of brain cancer or something like that. Now, this all may be unrelated, but I say it because for me, and I think for a lot of my colleagues, when we think EMF, we think power lines, we think stuff plugged into the wall. And so what you're saying is Wi-Fi and EMF, it's all the same waves. And so it's cumulative.
Yep, it's cumulative. And actually, your anecdotal evidence that this EMF frequencies or these power lines are related to cancer is not just anecdotal. There is a group called the Bioinitiative Group. This is an independent group. You could go to bioinitiative.org.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's the correct, yes, bioinitiative.org. And they are an independent group of scientists. So there is no bias associated with them, no conflict of interest. They are just committed to getting, to acquisition of knowledge related to EMFs and health. And they have labeled EMFs as a carcinogen. The World Health Organization classifies it as a possible carcinogen. But this group of independent scientists pushed a little further, because what they see is when they do studies, and when I say studies, I mean there are over 10,000 studies that link EMFs to health harm. And to put that in context, that is more than we know about lung cancer as an effect of smoking cigarettes. So something that we are able to say, yes, smoking cigarettes is predictive of lung cancer. That increases the risk of lung cancer. And there's few people who argue that point. We have more scientific research that shows that EMFs are harmful to our health and specifically cause DNA damage in the cells that we do for lung cancer and smoking. So this is not just anecdotal evidence. It's been linked to leukemia specifically. It's in animal studies, exposure to EMFs have been pretty dramatically linked to tumor growth and cancer in specifically male rats. There's effects on reproductive health. And then more general behaviors like sleep disturbances or fatigue, headaches, attention problems, Alzheimer's, memory and cognitive delays, things like that. So it's pretty pervasive across our health. And this isn't just small little studies that are showing them. There was I think it was over $30 million study, a 10-year longitudinal study that linked EMFs to rats and to cancer development in rats. And what's really interesting about a lot of this research that's being done is that it's being done, and I have a feeling we'll get here, but it's being done on the old technology. It's being done on the 2G, 3G technology. This technology that we had 10 years ago. So when they created the study, they used the technology they had at the time. And so now we're stepping into the realm of 5G. And we know that these lower frequencies are causing harm, both for overall health, for mental health, for physical health, reproductive health. And now we're worsening the issue by introducing 5G, and it hasn't been studied yet. And if it was really studied, I don't think we would like the outcome.
Yeah. So are there, lobbyists got to the point where cigarette packages have advertising on them saying dangerous to your health, does cause cancer or death, pretty strong lobbying outcomes. Why is there not more lobbying regarding some of these findings?
Well, actually, there is quite a bit of lobbying, and that's why no one has ever heard the findings, because the lobbying is going in the other direction. There's a pretty, from the wireless industry, there's a pretty strong lobby to, it's a really complicated issue, because we cannot, even in the context of these health harms, we cannot say that we could just eradicate Wi-Fi, because our society would collapse without the modern technology. We are dependent on it at this point in time. Yeah. And so what we'll talk about in a little bit is that we need solutions that are synergistic between the fact that this stuff, this EMF, this technology, and the way that this technology is being powered, it's harmful for our health, but we're at a point where we can't let it go. We can't say, like with cigarettes, well, let's just put a label on it or stop smoking. We are on technology right now, and that's the way we're getting this information out to people. Technology is part of our core right now. And so what's beautiful about that, and what's nice, is that there are solutions that I feel safe right now on my phone doing this interview because of the solutions that are available. And also there's been a lot of research into why EMFs are bad, and we'll dive into this in a minute. Really understand the biological mechanisms through which this radiation actually affects our body, helps us develop strategies to intervene so that we can live in a world where we can be connected, where we could turn on our Wi-Fi, where we could go on the computer and do our work, and our children could go to school where they're bombarded with Wi-Fi, but we could also protect our health and be safe.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that we're going to go a little bit into what the actual, demand on the cells is as a result of that. And then I think everybody's probably most interested in solutions. So we'll get there as well. I do have a question, and then kind of jumping ahead a little bit because we've been talking about 5G. I know, and I don't know what communities, but some communities have banned it. And so is that just like a general say, let's say it's a citywide decision that they are so anxious about the health impacts that 5G will give that they just blanketly say, hey, we're not going to bring it in. Do you know about that? Do you know about cities that have done that?
Actually, there are 40 different countries, mostly in Europe. We're not talking about small countries either. We're talking about places like France, Italy, Belgium, Spain, Germany. They've banned Wi-Fi. They put Wi-Fi restrictions in. So places like there can't be 5G near schools. There can't be 5G near nurseries. Places where children are 2 times more susceptible to the effects on the DNA damage as adults. So it's really important we protect our kids, and like fetuses are even more at risk. So places where babies are, there's bans. Brussels is the first city to ban 5G completely, and it's all because of the knowledge of health effects. So this idea of banning for cities and in America, I think it's a city decision. And so for people living in areas where 5G is a potential, I certainly encourage you to lobby your representatives and let them know your concerns, because truth is a lot of people just don't know this information. Correct. People don't know the effects of 5G or even what EMFs are. And so we need to be loud and share this information and not be fearful of it. Again, I point people to bioinitiative.org because all of this scientific information is up there. They've synthesized it. It's hard to deny when you're looking at the data what these effects look like. So I encourage people to go there and really read it themselves.
So, Andrea, you're saying you can go to bioinitiative.org. You don't have to pay to access the research, or it's just there?
It's just there. They've synthesized it. It's linked. You could read it all. It's like I said, it's there's no conflict of interest. They're an independent group just dedicated to getting this information out. So I think they have 4,000 studies listed on their site.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's move into sort of concrete health impacts that have been studied and what we need to be thinking about.
Sure. So before I get into the what do I need to do, I want to explain a little bit about how EMFs actually impact you and have an effect. Because if you talk to a physicist, and maybe some of you have seen this even on social media, they say EMFs do not have direct harm on your body. And the truth is they're right. And so you're looking at me like, how could they be right? Because you just told us that EMFs are so harmful, they're a carcinogen. But they don't. They don't have a direct effect on our health. So as I sit here right now and there's EMFs going around me, they are not directly impacting me. What they do, however, and this was discovered in a university lab over in, I think it was in Europe, what they found was that what EMFs do is they create what they call subatomic chaos on our cells. So what is subatomic chaos? Imagine I was in another room in your house and I had a jackhammer, right? And I'm on the floor and I'm like jackhammering, right? And you're downstairs. Well, when you're downstairs, you might not, that jackhammer is not immediately impacting you, but you might feel the effects. You might feel the shaking in the house. The lights are going to be shaking. It's going to cause some vibration and things are going to just be wobbly and shaky. Well, this is kind of what EMFs do. When they hit into a hard surface, when they hit into the walls or your bed frame or your body itself, when they hit a mass, they create what we call subatomic chaos. It's all of this shaking and wobbling, if you will. Well, what this shaking does is that it opens up in our cells a voltage-gated calcium channel. So our cells have these little channels, and when our cells need calcium, they open up a little bit and they let calcium come in. And then when there's enough calcium in the cell, the cell closes, and then no more calcium can get in. Well, the shaking and vibrating, which is caused by the EMFs, shake open those channels. It creates a faulty opening. And so this rush of calcium goes into our cells, and it creates a cycle of oxidative stress. It leads to DNA damage. It creates a cycle where the cell is not where it's supposed to be, where sort of this homeostasis is supposed to be. And so that subatomic chaos is really what's driving the health effects. It's not the EMFs specifically. The EMFs are not having a direct effect on us. Rather, it's the shaking and vibrating, the subatomic chaos that is causing the effects.
That's a great analogy.
So this is really, really important, because knowing this, what we call mediating mechanism, or knowing this pathway through which EMFs are having these effects, allows us to come up with strategies to intervene in that process. So instead of saying, well, let's just shut off all of our Wi-Fi, let's just get rid of it all, which would cause really like an economic catastrophe, we could figure out ways and use products to interfere with the subatomic chaos. So instead of this sort of vibrating, chaotic pattern that's affecting our cells, we could smooth it. We could harmonize it. And by doing that, it doesn't interfere with our health. It doesn't get in the way of our it doesn't lead to the health harms.
Okay, that's great. So what are first of all, I have a question. My husband follows me around the house, switching out lights after me. And he's got this big thing about, wasted electricity. It's more of a financial issue, actually. So, but once I started studying like a little bit about EMF and stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah, now I'm motivated. Like I want to turn all the lights out. However, like lights, plugins, those sorts of things weighted against all the Wi-Fi, does this even matter? Or is Wi-Fi so overwhelming that turning out a freaking light switch really isn't going to impact it a lot? I'm curious.
Yeah. So, I mean, do lights and general electricity have EMFs? Yes. Are they the thing that is most powerful and going to harm you? Probably no. It's the cumulative effect of everything. Yeah. So one of the things when I was learning all of this that I found most interesting was this notion of solar panels on the home. Solar panels we think of as always being so great because they're great for, the renewal of resources. They're actually one of the biggest EMF culprits.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they create a lot of dirty electricity. And so smart meters, one of the reasons smart meters are so bad is because they're pulsating. So I referred to this earlier in this podcast where it's not so much the amplitude, it's not so much the frequency, but it's this pulsing. Smart meters will be like sort of stagnant for a while and then all of a sudden throw out an impulse, and they'll be stagnant and throw out an impulse. And it's this inconsistency that really creates a lot of subatomic chaos. So, and Wi-Fi is the same way. Wi-Fi is it's not like this nice, harmonized, synchronistic wave. It's sort of like juts at you. And that's why it's so much more harmful than other things like shutting off a light or something like that.
So does that lead into, and I'm just jumping all over the place, does that lead into like, I know you're going to get into sort of practical solutions, but one of the things I think about is when your phone is searching for, a signal, that's the worst, right? Like when it is trying to connect to a call, that's why you hold it away from your ear, or it's loading a website or something like that. So is it important to make sure that you're shutting down all of your apps all the time and all of that kind of thing? Like, is there stuff on your phone that you should be doing regularly to help limit how much that 5G is working?
Well, it's a good question. And I guess in theory that would be true. But the truth of the matter is that even if you shut your apps off, your neighbor's house is emitting Wi-Fi and your other neighbor and the store down the street, and forget about the school or the local business or the restaurant. We are pounded by them. So I'm not sure the extent to which that small behavior is going to really change any actual health effects.
Okay. So what does, Andrea?
So what does help the health effects? I do want to say one more thing about cell phones.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't take us in a tangent. I'm thinking about it, but we're going to go there and hope it doesn't take us too far.
Okay.
When you sign your contract with your cell phone, so this bioinitiative group has set standards that say this is the amount of frequency or exposure that is safe, right? At this level of this threshold, you're safe. The cell phone companies, when you buy your cell phone, you sign in that little bitty fine print that you acknowledge that your cell phone is unsafe for use if ever held up against your head. And anytime you should be on a call, it should be at least, I think, like, I don't know how, maybe 12 inches or something from your head. That level that they even say that at far exceeds what bioinitiative says is safe. So even if we exceed what bioinitiative says is safe, the cell phone companies still admit that they far cross that exceeding threshold, and it's still unsafe for you. But we don't know that because it's in that really small fine print. So
nobody
I don't think it matters if it's searching for a signal or you're turning on an app or whatever you're doing. It actually it's harmful for you either way. And you could see they do thermal studies where you could see the heat on your head when you put your phone up. It almost has an immediate effect on your the heat distribution, temperature distribution in your head.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
so what could you do to help? So I wish that there was something I could say that you could just do at home and, invest zero resources and, you're 100% safe.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not. We do have to purchase products that help us stay safe. We invest in products ourselves. We sell them. If you go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/treehouseliving, you could hit the shop now button and it will take you to our store where we have products you could sell. What I have personally done is we purchased a home house protection. This is something you put on the box outside your house. And then beds actually are the most dangerous place in your house in terms of EMF exposure, because a lot of times they have a metal frame and metal is a conduit of electricity. And so in addition to a bed being the place where you're supposed to sleep and restore and have cellular regeneration, oftentimes there's like a ceiling fan that is emitting, EMFs, and you've got Wi-Fi in the room, and your cell phone is typically plugged in because it's your alarm clock just a few feet from your head. And it's just sort of this the center of a Venn diagram of all of the dangers in one place, and it's supposed to be the place where you're supposed to be getting the most rest. So what we see when we remediate people's homes, we put something under their bed that helps remediate the effects of EMFs, and then we put something on their house, and then typically, because routers are such powerful EMF emitters, we put something on their router, and people sleep better. People feel like they could attend better. Their headaches go away. Like, we see all of this. Sometimes people don't even realize that they had effects, and then they did. So in our house specifically, my husband installed all of this. He's also a EMF specialist. He installed it all without telling me because he just wanted to see, I'm a researcher. We went through this whole training and we believe it all for years. We've worked, different products and did different things, but we're still human and we're still skeptical and ask questions. And so he was like, I'm just going to see if she notices a difference. And so we went to bed that night and I woke up the next morning, and mind you, I have a co-sleeping 1-year-old at the time. So sleep is something that, most of the time it's a dream.
Yeah.
But I woke up that next morning and I'm like, wow, I slept deep last night. I feel great. And he was like, I installed the EMF stuff. I was like,
Oh, wow.
oh, interesting. So I didn't even notice that I was being affected by it. But once it was remediated, I then noticed an effect. But the important point there is that you don't have to notice an effect. You are still having a beneficial effect from them because remember, it's causing DNA damage in your cells. So if you're not to the point, a lot of us are so used to feeling sick. We're so used to not feeling well. We don't even remember what well feels like. 100%. And so, you don't always have to feel an effect to know that the effect is happening. That being said, on the products that we sell, and the reason why we sell them versus other products is because these have been sufficiently tested. So we have, you could look at blood cells under a microscope, and maybe I'll share some of these on the Facebook page as well as this page just for folks to have in their back pocket. But you could look at the cells under a microscope, and when you're on the cell phone, you could see that they're all clumpy. And if you think about red blood cells going through a capillary, they could only fit like one at a time. Well, now that they're all clumpy and stuck together because of the subatomic chaos associated with the EMFs, they can't get through the capillaries as well. So it's no wonder why, if you think about blood-brain barrier, there's no wonder why we're having trouble concentrating and feeling fatigued and having headaches and all this stuff, because our blood is not pumping the way it should. You put this protection on, and now within minutes, the cells are laying the way that you would expect them to lay. It's really interesting. And they've done studies with these products using so many different modalities of health. So, using Chinese medicine and meridians and acupressure and acupuncture points, mold experiments. This is something that is an area of research that's so interesting, is that mold thrives under EMF. Mold, we hear all the time the effects of mold on health. Mold thrives in conditions with high EMF. So if you take a piece of bread, now it has to, of course, be a piece of bread that isn't pumped with preservatives or anti-mold agents or anything like that, but like an actual piece of bread, and you stick one with EMF remediation on it and one in a place where there's no EMF remediation, you'll see massive differences in the amount of mold that's grown. And it makes sense because pathogens grow in pathogenic environments, and EMF creates a pathogenic environment. So we see bad things grow in bad environments. Good things grow in health grows in good things.
So these products you recommend, do they do independent testing on their products, or are they testing their own product?
Nope, they do independent testing on all their products. And we have, we've done some of it as well, just because we test everything. We don't sell anything in our office or online that we don't use with our own family. And I'm really strict with what I use on my own family. So I am the one who wants the statistical reports that no one else even probably thinks they're opening, but those things are important. So they do third-party testing. For people who are familiar with muscle testing who are listening to this podcast, you could also muscle test in real time. This is something that I did forget to mention that's an important feature of these products. We think about blocking. So other approaches that people use for Wi-Fi or EMFs, is to shut Wi-Fi off at night, or they used to years ago have like paint that you could paint your house and it completely blocks Wi-Fi from coming in. Well, if you think about that, you're creating when you paint your walls so that no Wi-Fi could come in, you're also not allowing Wi-Fi to escape. And what that creates is a microwave. You are now making your house a microwave where all of these EMFs are just bouncing around and heating up exactly like you do when you close a microwave oven and you're able to heat up food, except in this case, the food is your body and your cells.
Yeah.
Other options like shutting off all of your Wi-Fi in your house, I mean, that's a good option, but your neighbors have it and you're being pounded by it, or there's power lines going out to an island and you're being pounded by those. So they're not really practical solutions. Additionally, I don't know about you, but I like to check my cell phone. I use my cell phone as my alarm clock. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm on Facebook checking out all of the crazy important things that happened overnight, apparently. But I don't like to shut it off because I like to be wired. So those aren't really practical solutions in my life, at least. If you took an EMF reader and you read the amount of EMF in the air before and after, it would be the same. The reason is the way these are working is we're not cutting off EMFs. We are cutting off the way the EMF is affecting your cells. We're harmonizing the subatomic chaos so that we don't have the health harms, but we're not disrupting the EMFs themselves. The EMFs are, they don't have direct harm. The physicists are right. They are not directly harming us. So we are affecting the way, the mechanism, the pathway through which they have harm on us.
Yeah, I see. So Hillary asks, what about the old story that microwaves are unsafe? You sort of already answered that, but people are like, oh, well, now I have this like house protector thing. I'm going to microwave all my food. Do you have an opinion on like whether food is actually safe in that environment anyway?
I don't microwave my food. There's a lot of disagreement on that. I feel that I don't really need some strong multi-million-dollar study to tell me it's bad. I think it's just as easy to heat food up a different way, and so I just err on the side of safety.
Well, yeah, because then there's no loss in doing it a healthier way. So why take your chances? I'm in agreement with that. And so, yeah, I think like many countries who've banned microwaves altogether, I don't think it'll be that long before that will happen in some places in Canada and the US and that kind of thing. Just, the studies are pretty strong against it, but it's a good question, Hillary. Thank you for asking that. So as we start to wind down, how do people we talked about bioinitiative.org. Can you say the name of your Facebook again? Because that's a good place to start for products to just kind of get an idea, because you guys have tested them.
Yeah, it's facebook.com and the page, it's Treehouse Living. So if you go to facebook.com/Treehouse Living,
good.
The page itself is called Doctors Andrea and Eric's Happy Holistic Families or something really long. I know I should know the name of my own page, but of course I don't.
No,
off the top of my head.
In the comments, will you provide us with some links, some key links like that you used today, and that way people can go down to the comments and follow up, because I know this was just the start of a conversation, but we definitely learned a lot. And before we wrap up, any last minute tips for just kind of getting started? Like if someone can't afford a whole house thing, what do you suggest?
What I suggest is, and I will say that there's a lot of different things that you could do. So I suggest a cell phone chip. It's about $20, and you put it on your cell phone, and at least it's making your cell phone safer. We also have bands or little cards you could put in your pocket, and it just protects you as you're walking around and in your environment of other, with other places. And if you do know someone who can muscle test, they can muscle test you with these, and you can see the effects pretty quickly. We are doing an EMF training. We do them regularly. So if you like our page, facebook.com/Treehouse Living, that's where we advertise when we're giving these webinars, and we go into a lot more detail and we dive into the research and we show the different studies and all of that stuff. So this was a really 30,000 foot view, but there's so much to chat about, and I'm glad to have people's attention, because this is such an important thing. We eat organic, we exercise, we detox, but we have to make sure that the environment around us is healthy. And even if we can't see it, it's there.
Yeah. And I know people are going to want to follow up with you. So we will just make sure anytime you guys, if you share this, make sure to add the link in the comments for Andrea's Facebook page so people can follow up on the group. Amber asks, this is, first of all, she says, so interesting. I agree, Amber. Thank you for sharing. Question, is there any such supplements or vitamins that we can take as a family that might help kind of dampen the damage of EMF?
It's a great question. And if you are one of the magnesium guru people, you know, there's the, I laugh sometimes because I feel like the people who love magnesium like know everything about magnesium and it can help every single thing. But if you look at the effects that magnesium has, it's very similar to the list of things that EMFs, the effects EMFs have. And the reason is magnesium acts upon the same voltage-gated calcium channels that the EMFs are opening. So magnesium could certainly help. You know, there's no studies that show magnesium blocks the effects of EMFs, but at a theoretical level, they're both working on these same voltage-gated calcium channels. And so if you are having experiences like sleep disturbances, fatigue, headaches, you know, and you're noticing that you're in a high EMF environment, you could either, you know, go upstream a little bit more and interfere with the subatomic chaos that's associated with EMFs, or you could do things like take magnesium and they help you, you know, they help that gated channel.
You lost me a little there. So you're saying magnesium opens the calcium gate in the same way EMF does, then how is it a benefit?
It acts upon those channels. So I don't know if they, you know, if I'm being technically correct, if I say it closes the channels, but they act, when we look at the effects of magnesium, it's binding and it's helping that inrush of calcium. So it's acting on the same underlying mechanism.
Okay, got it. That makes more sense. Good.
And like I said, there's no study that I know of that's directly linking magnesium and EMFs. But when I read the research and I'm seeing what's out there, I'm seeing that magnesium is having is acting upon the similar systems. Magnesium lightens headaches. It helps fatigue. It helps sleep disturbances. It helps concentration. And EMFs is causing all of these things in the opposite direction. And they're both acting upon these calcium channels.
We got there. That's good. That makes sense. So good. Thank you for the question, Amber. Thank you for the question, Hillary. For those of you who are watching in replay, we love you just as much as the live viewers. And so keep watching because this is over on YouTube on the Well Fit and Fed channel. Go over there and subscribe. The Junk Show is posted there every week on Friday right after it's live. And Andrea, I am so pleased you joined us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And obviously, everyone, this is a toe dip. You need to go and look at Andrea's Facebook page. Look at their, there's a link on there. Is it the shop link? Is that which one it was?
Yeah, I think it's Shop Now.
Shop Now. Just start. I mean, you know, Andrea's not hard selling anybody. We're just saying, here's some stuff that she's tested that she feels good about. It's a starting point. So go and look there and check that out. You're welcome, Amber. We're glad you stopped by. Check that out. And I would much rather, you know, purchase my first sort of products in this new realm from somebody who's tested it on her own family. So thank you for being with us. I'm sure we'll have you back. So I appreciate it so much and looking forward to connecting with you further. Thank you. And thank you, everybody. We will see you next Friday. We are talking coronavirus next Friday with Dr. John Nowicki. We're not going to want to miss that. It is going to be good. So Andrea, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Andrea, stay on.
Thank you.
And goodbye to everybody else.